Welcome back. Next up, we have our very first Ask a Pro segment, where we talk to Mark from Brilliance Computer Technologies about hard drives. Hello everyone, and welcome to our first segment of Ask a Pro. I'm here at Brilliance Computer Technologies in Halifax, Nova Scotia with Mark. And he's going to talk to us today about hard drives. Now, before we get started, do you want to tell us a little bit about your store and what you guys offer here?
Well, we build machines, we repair old ones, we sell new and used components. We've been doing it since 1994, so we're, pretty decent at what we do.
Now, we're going to talk about hard drives today. So do you want to explain first and foremost what a hard drive is?
Inside your machine, laptops, desktops, doesn't matter what it is. It's the thing that stores all your programs. It stores all your pictures. It's where you copy your games to. It's like your shelf space.
Now, what kind of different hard drives are available for people to use?
Well, historically, everybody just used a standard hard drive. When people say hard drive, they're always thinking of the same one, which is a standard spinning platter inside your machine. Nowadays, there's a bunch of variations on that theme. You've got varying degrees of speed and capacity inside the drives. There's also solid-state drives now, which act like a regular hard drive, but they just use memory, like RAM, and they're much, much, much faster. They have some downsides because they're so much faster and they're so new. They tend to be a bit more expensive, but they're way, way faster a product.
Now, is that something that you can only use in, say, a desktop machine as opposed to a laptop, or is that something that's sort of spreading throughout the different?
No, it actually works in both. In fact, they really only make one size, and it's the laptop size. So if you're mounting it in a desktop, you usually have to put it in an adapter or into a smaller space. But in a laptop, the advantage is if you move the laptop around, like some people just leave a laptop on a kitchen table and never move it, and then you get the benefit of the speed, but there's no moving parts in a solid-state drive. So if you take it to school, if you move it around, you can bang the thing around, it's not going to hurt your data. If you drop it on the floor, you're not going, everything's gone, now I'm going to, I've lost all my work.
That sounds like something I could use.
Yes.
Now, I have a Mac, so is that something that I could use in a MacBook? Because I know that sometimes things are PC exclusive.
Well, Macs actually are PCs, more or less just rebranded anyways. MacBook Airs come with solid-state drives in them, and so do a lot of the MacBook Pros.
Oh, okay.
So it's a neat way to just improve the performance of whatever machine you have, a Mac or a PC. If your machine is getting old and draggy, you can pop a solid-state hard drive into it, and it perks them up tremendously.
Awesome.
As a ballpark, a solid-state drive is about 5 times faster than the fastest spinning drive.
So I also heard that there are some hybrid hard drives. Can you tell me about those?
What a hybrid drive is a standard spinning disk hard drive, basically with a lot of cache attached to it. So it's not as fast as a straight solid-state drive, but it is faster than a regular spinning drive. And they tend to be a lot bigger in terms of their capacity.
So what kind of system would benefit from that as opposed to the SSD or the HDD ones?
They're not as popular, partially because if you're really looking for speed, a solid state is going to dominate the speed market hands down. If you're looking for capacity, a standard spinning disk drive has more capacity. But the hybrid drives give you quite a bit of capacity, and they are faster than a standard spinning drive.
So I guess it might depend on what you're planning on doing with your computer as to which hard drive might fit you better.
Yeah, that's it exactly. It's kind of a compromise drive, hence hybrid.
Right, okay. Now, I play video games, and right now I have a MacBook, which isn't the best, but let's say I was planning on building myself a computer. What kind of hard drive would you recommend for someone who plays video games?
What we normally like for video games. It kind of depends on how serious you are on your video games. But if you put in 2 drives, if you put in a solid-state drive for your boot drive and for your gaming drive, and if you need more space than that, you can put a second drive in for your pictures and your movies and your music, because they don't really need the speed. They don't benefit from it. If you're gaming on a solid-state drive, you don't get any immediate perk, because a lot of games nowadays are designed to only start when everybody's in at the same time, so that you don't get that benefit.
Okay.
But what you do get is if you're like running through a map, it doesn't tear as much, and you don't get lags as much.
Right.
So even though you don't really feel a whole lot of difference in terms of the game loading up, the gameplay is slightly smoother than without a solid state.
Okay, so the dual hard drive setup would be more for a desktop, I suppose?
It really doesn't matter. It depends on...
You can fit 2 hard drives in a laptop?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Okay, I was going to say, like, whoa.
Yeah. No, most people don't game on laptops anyways.
That's true.
But
I'm in the minority, I think, on that one.
but even still, like solid-state drives, even though they're smaller in terms of their overall size, their standard sizes now are 128, 256, and 512 gigs, which is a ton of space.
Okay.
Most people don't use anywhere near that amount of space.
So now we talked about gamers and what hard drives might work for them, but what about just your average user, like my mother, for example, checking Facebook, uploading pictures, that kind of thing?
It's not really important. A standard drive is going to be less expensive. Most people don't need the speed that an SSD is going to give them. They're just fine. Regular hard drives are what 99.9% of the population has, and obviously everybody's reasonably happy with that.
Right.
Solid-state drives are great as long as you don't go back and forth between regular drives and solid states, because a regular drive will feel really slow.
Oh.
If you've got a regular drive, you don't notice that.
Yeah.
It's just Windows loads up, you're doing your Facebook, you shut the machine off, you're done.
Right.
With the solid state, it just happens faster.
I see. Now, in terms of price range, what are we looking at for both the SSD and the HDD?
They're not all that far off in terms of price. Like 120 gig solid state is around $120.
Okay.
That floats. Some of them are $99 and some of them can be $150, but that they're in that $120 range. $120 on a conventional drive will get you about 2,000 gigs.
Oh, wow.
So it's a lot bigger. That being said, most people don't need that much space.
Right. That is quite a lot of photos of your your cats and whatnot.
That is a lot of cat photos.
That's a lot of cat photos. What kind of lifespan do hard drives have?
Most drives nowadays, they say last about 5 to 10 years. Solid states supposedly last less.
Okay.
They're too new for anybody to be 100% on that. But a good rule of thumb is they last 3 to 5 years, as opposed to, say, 5 to 7 for a spinning disk drive. The other bad thing about solid states is if one does crash on you, it's virtually impossible to get the data back.
Oh, really?
Right? So they're very fast. They're very shock resistant and reliable. But if you do, in fact, break one, you better have a backup.
So I see you've got some hard drives in your hand. Do you want to show me the size comparison and talk a little bit about them?
Just as a reference, a standard hard drive that's gone into every machine in the last almost 20 years is about that size.
Okay.
A solid-state drive is much smaller.
Oh, it's really small, yeah.
If you feel the weight on it, there's virtually no weight to it.
I feel like I could snap it in half, to be
Yes,
honest.
yeah, because there's basically nothing in it other than some little chips.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the weight of this is in fact just the case.
Okay.
That's an enterprise grade hard drive, so it's a little heavier than normal, but
really
it's
heavy.
monstrous compared to this guy.
So in terms of size, what's the difference? I see this one here is 2 terabytes.
Yeah, so that's 2,000 gigs.
Yeah, and this one is...
This is 120 gigs.
Right, that's a big difference. Even still though, that's like a brick.
It is absolutely a brick. Most people, you wouldn't want that in your laptop, but if it was on your floor in a desktop, it really doesn't matter how heavy it is.
You're not really carrying those around too often.
No. But again, in laptops, these things are wonderful because they're so light. Mm-hmm. They don't take up any additional weight in the machine so that your machine gets much lighter and more secure.
Right. So this must be something that's sort of in like the MacBook Airs. That's how they can get such a light weight on their
That is
machine.
one of the things, exactly. That being said, with the MacBook Airs, they're actually currently having problems with some of their solid-state drives,
Oh, okay.
where they're just randomly failing. And again, where solid-state drives are basically unrecoverable,
Everything's
it's a
gone.
concern. So even if it's under warranty, you've lost all your stuff.
Right. And that is not fun.
No, no.
So let's say someone comes into the store looking to upgrade to a SSD. What do you recommend?
Probably the nicest drives out there right now are the Samsung brand drives. They have a few different lines. They have the EVO or Evo. They have the Pro series. It almost doesn't matter as much. Any of them are going to perform hugely over a standard drive. Samsung's drives seem to be a little faster and much more reliable overall than buying kind of a generic brand.
Okay.
If you
What-
have, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I don't mean to cut you off.
In a laptop, for example, we my wife commonly takes a machine into the car for my kids to watch movies on.
Mm-hmm.
Every year or so, I have to replace the drive because it comes out of the back of the machine. The kids drop it on the floor. Anytime they move, it has to go underneath the seat. We put a solid-state drive in, and those problems just go away. The machine is monstrously fast, and I know it's not going to break unless they break the screen or something.
Right. So which one do you have in your computer at home?
I've got a Samsung at home. I also have a Kingston in my main machine, which is also an excellent brand.
Well, thank you very much for letting us come in and explaining hard drives to us. If anyone out there has any more questions or is looking to pick up a hard drive for themselves, how can they get a hold of you?
We're at 3700 Kempt Road in Halifax. The website is www.brillcom.com, BRILLCOM.com.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That wraps up our second episode of Tech Up. Make sure you leave your comments and suggestions on Facebook and Twitter. Let us know what you think and suggest some apps for our recap. I'm Sarah Ingram, and I'll see you next time.